Hi and welcome to another gaming video, and in today's video I want to talk about sort of backnaming or retroactive, if that's a particular word, naming schemes for games consoles. Now this has come about because we've got the Switch. We've had the Switch for 7 or 8 years, and now the Switch 2 is coming out, and that's what it should be called, the Switch and the Switch 2. But I've seen a few news articles in the last week or so that have started to refer to the Switch as the Switch 1, just to kind of differentiate it between all the sort of Switch 2 news that are floating around. And that term has bugged me. It's not the Switch 1, it's the Switch. It's the Nintendo Switch. And it's happened a few times in gaming history, but not as much as you would think. So if we start off with things like the Master System, this came out in around 85, 86, and then we had the Master System 2, which, I mean, you get mid-gen refreshes for a lot of consoles, but they're generally called PS2, PS2 Slim, so you know it's in the same generation. So calling the Master System and then the Master System 2, which really wasn't a new console, it really was just a redesign. It should have been called Master System Slim, but they didn't. So the Master System came out in 1985, 1986, with the Master System 2 coming out in 1990. Sega did the same thing with the Mega Drive. You had the Mega Drive, or the Genesis if you're American, came out in 1988 and 1989, and then it was revised with the Mega Drive 2 in 1993, but it wasn't a sequel, so it really should have been called the Mega Drive Slim, I suppose, going by today's way of doing things, although that also gives it a bit of a, I wouldn't want to call it the Mega Drive Slim because it's called the Mega Drive 2. And this also happened with the PlayStation. Now we know that Sony nowadays have this great naming convention of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, 3, 4, 5, a great way of understanding which gen console that you've got. But think back when the original PlayStation came out, it was just called the PlayStation. In 1994, 1995, Sony released the Sony PlayStation. And it wasn't until the PlayStation 2 in sort of 1999, 2000 that we had a back name for the original PlayStation, calling it something like the original PlayStation or the PlayStation 1. Yeah, it's not. It's called the PlayStation. The next one is called the PlayStation 2. So why do we have to change the name of something when the next gen comes out? And now the PlayStation is a little bit of an odd one, because 94, 95 you had the PlayStation, 2000 you had the PlayStation 2, or 1999, 2000 you had the PlayStation 2, but in the middle of that you had the PS1. Now this is the little mid-gen refresh. Oddly enough, it came out in roughly the same year as the PlayStation 2, and it wasn't called the PS Slim. They called it the PS1. The original was called the PlayStation, but I think by the time we were sort of getting into the next gen, people had started to shorten it to PS. So PS2 was a natural progression, and when Sony brought out this little tiny mid-gen refresh, they decided to call it the PS1. Okay, and it then kind of, well, it fitted in with the naming, I suppose, but it's an oddity. Bring it out at the same time as you brought out your next-gen console. I think it was just to bring in as much extra sales from PlayStation as they could, but it was called the PS1. And going forward from that, you've had the PS2, PS2 Slim, PS3, PS3 Slim, and Super Slim. So you get these mid-gen refreshes, and they give them the same kind of name, just with a little bit of difference. PS4, PS4 Slim. So you know that it's a PS4, but it's just a different model. They didn't go for like Mega Drive 2. they went for PS4, PS4 Slim, which makes a lot of sense. Same with PS5, PS5 Slim, Xbox One, Xbox One S, Nintendo Wii, Nintendo Wii Mini. So I don't particularly like the term Switch 1. It's not what it's called, and it shouldn't be referred to as that. I mean, it's not exclusive to gaming world. You do see a lot of things that are given a new name when something else comes out. If we talk about World War One, it wasn't called World War One until World War Two was out, and it was then, well, it was just called the World War or the Great War, but it was then referred to as World War One because they wanted to differentiate it from World War Two, and it's the same with the Switch. Please stop calling it the Switch 1 just because the Switch 2 is out. It is called the Nintendo Switch. Now, we've had no news of whether they're going to bring out a Switch Lite 2 or Switch 2 Lite, whichever way around you want to word it. But if they did, are we then going to start referring to the current Switch Lite as the Switch Lite 1 or the Switch 1 Lite? No, it's horrible. It's called the Nintendo Switch, and the next one is called the Switch 2. It's not really a huge thing, but it's something that has bugged me. I've seen it written down in news articles, especially in the last week since we've had the Switch 2 announcements, and it reminded me of just lots of things that get a new name because an update version or a sequel has come out, and you get it with films. It's like Terminator comes out, and then you get Terminator 2, and then the original film gets sort of rebadged as, oh, that's Terminator 1. No, it's called The Terminator. So, yeah, a little bit of another rant video, but you can probably see where I'm coming from. I don't like changing the name of something just because there's a newer version and it makes it easier. No, it's called the Nintendo Switch, and the new one is called the Nintendo Switch 2. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy.